Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Assalamu alaikum. All right, so we we have a lot of things to address. First things first, though. Roll call. All right, sound off in the comments. We got to fight the algorithm constantly. It's a pain in the butt, and you know, it helps, right? So sound off in the comments. Let me know that you're here, even if you're watching afterwards on replay. I'll be checking. And by the way, something that I noticed, which I should bring to your attention, is that there's a significant amount of you that actually, I can't remember the exact percentage, but long story short, hit the bell notification. I hate doing these cliche YouTuber phrases like, oh yeah, make sure you hit the bell notification. You know the thing, man. I'm saying that because, you know, even if you're a regular channel just doing cooking or I don't know, whatever, some other non-political issue, you're always fighting against the algorithm. With you know, politics, I mean, forget it, man. Unless, you know, you're running a racket like MSNBC. Yeah, they're not gonna help you. So, you know, definitely do that. That would be appreciated. And I have a question, actually. Where did you guys get a notification that, you know, there was a live stream now? Did you see it like in the YouTube app when you just opened the YouTube app? Was it on the home screen, or did you actually go and click on a notification somewhere? Tell me, because I need to know like what's going on, because it doesn't tell you that, right? So in any case, okay, so Samira says Twitter. Okay, that's good. All right, Monarch says home screen. Rodrigo says just open YouTube and it was there. Cyber says email. Nice. I also, for some reason, YouTube is very kind that it you know, it emails me when I'm live, which is wonderful, but it would be better if it emailed you guys that I'm live, right? So there we go. Oh, Pancho says I saw it on Patreon. Awesome, awesome. Okay. All right, so what I'm seeing here is a mix of people on the home screen in the YouTube app and Twitter. Okay, that's good to know. All right, so again, one of the things that I'm going to start doing, if you're already subscribed on the Substack or the newsletter, I'm going to start emailing you notifications when we go live there. Okay, so like we can't go wrong with that, right? It'll just be a button that says, you know the thing or something. Whatever. Okay, so we got 118 people watching, but only 68 likes. You know what to do. You know what to do. So let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. I wanna start off first of all with hold on. This is really zoomed in way too much. Okay, so can you hear anything? Okay, I think that should be okay. So anyway, let's start, guys. All right, let's get down to business. So today, April 17th, this is Syria's Independence Day, right? So Syria used to be a French mandate, which at the time was, you know, not supposed to be like a colony, but is basically a colony, right? You know, Algeria, for example, was I mean, that was on another level. That was not just a French colony. They made it a département, which is basically like another, you know, like a state, basically, right? Like, no, we're annexing this. This is France now, right? And I mean, they committed genocide there. It's awful. And, you know, Morocco, for example, that was a protectorat. And, you know, Syria was a mandate, just like Lebanon. And today is our Independence Day in Syria, April 17th, 1946. And, you know, this is the day when the last French troops left, right? And the next day, so April 18th, that's when you'll have a public holiday, basically. And I think it's important to celebrate this and to talk about this, especially in the context now, because Syria has been under attack for the last 10 years, and ironically, no less by the same powers, right? By France, by the UK, and of course America. And I want to just remind you, how this came about, because Syria was under occupation by the Ottomans for around 400 years. Okay, and ironically, this is kind of like the reverse of what you had in Europe, right? When Europe was like, in the Dark Ages, it's just everything, it was backwards. The Arabs, they were advancing everything, science, medicine. They were translating Greek philosophy and basically saving all these things and translating them in Arabic, advancing astronomy, you name it, right? And Damascus was the first capital, of the Arab Empire, of the Islamic Empire. And this is known as the Islamic Golden Age, right? And you have the Umayyad, dynasty, and then the Abbasid, and the capital moved to Baghdad. So, Damascus is a really important place. I mean, even before that, it's thousands of years old. It's the oldest city in the world. And, now, just before, right? So the tables turned afterwards, right? You had the Levant coming under occupation by the Ottomans, and that was like our Dark Ages, basically, right? Lots of repression, and it's just, they ruled with an iron fist. And so, and then, of course, in Europe, you had the Renaissance, and then we come to World War I, okay? And now, if you've watched Lawrence of Arabia, well, I mean, that is just, in of itself, it's a magnificent movie, right? It's a magnificent production. Peter O'Toole, Omar Sharif. So Alec Guinness as well. So definitely watch that. It's a wonderful film. But, if you've seen that, you know that Lawrence, T.E. Lawrence, he was recruited by the Arab Bureau, which was founded in 1916 in Egypt, right, by the British. And they sent him to gather all the Arab tribes and to overthrow, the Ottomans, to destroy their empire, because there's a line in the beginning of the movie where he says, "It's a sideshow of a sideshow," right? Well, it turns out it was the complete opposite. So, there was a promise made to the Arabs that if they helped with this revolt, with the Arab revolt, that they would be given their independence, right? Now, I don't know what, everyone believes their own version, whether Lawrence was tricked into promising that, or whether he was in on it. I think I'm leaning more towards that he was tricked. I think this guy genuinely loved Arabs, and in the movie they call him a desert-loving English, which is just, yeah. So no, I think he genuinely loved, Arabia. Truly, he learned the language. He probably knows it like the back, knew it like the back of his hand. Absolutely, right? But they captured Damascus in October 1918. And it turns out that in the background, the British and the French had made a secret agreement, the Sykes-Picot agreement, right? So let me show this to you. And just to summarize it, a bunch of old white dudes gathered around a table and just carved up the Middle East to their liking, right? No surprise. No surprise. And let me just show you what this looks like, because they divided it into different zones, yes? So you can see here, you had Syria under French rule, right? Palestine, it ended up becoming British afterwards, but they basically divided them into British and French zones, and then some of them were shared between the two. I mean, it's just disgusting, honestly, right? You have these people who are from thousands of miles away coming here and deciding, what flag is going to fly, who's going to be in charge, and it's disgusting. And they drew this up in secret. The Sykes-Picot agreement. And, Sykes and Picot, these were two French and British diplomats, more like colonizers, if we're being frank. So, they just carved up the Middle East. And this is very much like what they did in Africa, right? You remember the Europeans, they had this scramble for Africa, as the period is called. And, they had the... Hold on, I'm trying to pull up the map for you. they had the Berlin Conference and they just carved up Africa to their liking, right? Oh yeah, you take this, the Italians can take that, France will take this, Germany will take this, and everyone goes and plunders and commits genocide and does what they like, and it's disgusting, right? So this is why I think it's really important and vital that we have solidarity with each other, and this has been the case, right? It's not something new. I mean, throughout the decolonization process, and to this day, this is why you have an understanding in the global South, because all of these countries were oppressed by the same powers, and you still have remnants of their cultures, of their rule in the lands that they colonized. I mean, you have several countries in Africa whose monetary policy is still controlled by France. Their currency is controlled by France to this day. So we talk about decolonization after 45. At least that's what they teach you in school. But is that really true? Is it really decolonization when you have French and British multinationals that are raking in the lion's share of profits from the resources of the same countries that they colonized? They've just rebranded it. They give the locals pennies, they give the native population pennies, and they take the lion's share, and they make sure that they keep a boot on their neck, that they are never allowed to develop, right? So it's disgusting. And I mean, in Algeria, there was a bloodbath for their independence, which they got later, about 20 years later, right? In the 50s and 60s, there was an independence war. And, you still have remnants of the culture. I mean, in Syria, for example, people still use a lot of French words, right? Bon fête, bonne nuit, gâteau. You'll find little French expressions and words here and there. I mean, I learned French because I went to a French school. That's, but people in Syria still go and learn French. I'm pretty sure all my cousins studied not just English, but also French, they were tutored in it and did that extra. So yeah, you still have a cultural influence to a certain degree. I'd say in Lebanon, even a bit more. And that's why it's you had Macron, you remember last year after the Beirut blast, strolling in like some colonial ruler, I'm here to save you, and then imposing conditions. You better reform your government or else, I found that really disgusting. But anyway, yeah, it's really important, man. And one thing I wanted to point out, which is very interesting. And again, let me pull this up for you, right? So, for Syria to get her independence, there was also a lot of struggle. And so, in 1936, you had a general strike. Yes, a general strike, 50 days, right? 50 days of general strike. And, it left the economy in tatters, which is the goal. And the French, they were extremely angry at this, but it forced them into a corner, right? They had to go and sign an agreement, basically, called the Franco-Syrian Treaty of Independence, right, with the National Bloc, which is the movement that led the general strike. So, I mean, I talk about general strikes a lot. I talk about direct action a lot. I mean, you should try it sometime, man. I'm telling you, there's a reason this stuff works, right? You also need to get your independence in the United States from the corporate, masters that have basically taken the country hostage, right? You got independence from a monarch, but you just replaced it with a corporation or corporations. Right. If we're being frank, I hate saying being frank in this context because the pun is not intended. But, another thing that is, here's a picture of this. This is also from our independence. And I love this tweet over here. This is from 2018. I'll keep in mind 2018. France attacks Syria 3 days before Independence Day, Syria's national day, commemorating the evacuation of the last French soldier and the end of the French mandate of the country. We kicked you out 72 years ago and we'll kick you out as many times as you try. That's the history. You're damn right. You're damn right. And, it's important because, the Syrian opposition, what I find so astounding about it, among many other things, the flag that they've picked is a colonial flag. Right. What they did is they went and took this green flag from 1932 to 1950, which is from the First Syrian Republic. OK, and that was basically, it's like a paper construction. It's like Again, this is what the French and the British were doing, right? In some territories, they'd say, "Oh yeah, we're giving you independence," but it's basically just like a puppet state. I mean, this is disgusting. Like, how can you call this a revolution and liberation, and you're using a colonial, disgusting rag like that? Like, for God's sake, at least, you know, they couldn't do. I don't know. Like, you couldn't at least get that right. I'm disgusted by that. Like, who wants to be liberated by a colonial flag? Are you out of your mind? Hashashin hadol. And, you know, another thing, I pointed this out before, you know, this is the Syrian flag now, right? And you have a lot of people that will go and say like, oh, this is an Assad flag. This is an Assadist flag. Dude, this flag is from when Egypt and Syria formed one country called the United Arab Republic. But, you know, Hafiz al-Assad was not president. Bashar al-Assad was not even born. It's nothing to do with them. It's literally nothing to do with them. It's just some bullshit, you know, propaganda, that some talking point that they try to use, right? Like, you know, we're not having your goddamn colonial nonsense. So yeah, you know, with the United Arab Republic, it didn't work out in the end, unfortunately. Nonetheless, Syria kept the flag, right? Syria kept this flag and still has this flag to this day. And it definitely beats the colonial rag that the French imposed, right? And, you know, by the way, another fun fact, there was a period in Syria where you had so much political instability that, you know, you had coups every other day. And there was one guy, I think, who was president for like 24 hours. Look at this. Look at this timeline, honestly. This is really hilarious. Look how many presidents. Like, this is a span of just 30 years, right? But I mean, you can see here, there's people, look, hold on. This guy's 37 days? Okay, no. Hold on. This is in 2000. That was probably after Hafiz died. So hold on a second. Let's go back because I'm not talking about that. Look, this guy in the 50s, he's president for 3 days. This is the guy I'm talking about. 1 day from 2nd to 3rd December. Oh man, this guy also 1 day. I mean, this is hilarious, honestly. But it really speaks to, you know, the effect that these colonizers have, right? They come in, they screw everything up, and then they pretend they did you a service, and they just leave in tatters. I mean, British did the same thing, of course. And it's just, you know, it's important to bring this up because right now you have Syria that is, you know, it still has parts under occupation, right? I mean, not only did the British and the French carve Syria up, these are man-made, well, of course they're man-made, but I mean, these are white man-made borders, right? Arabs didn't draw these borders up. Those are people from Britain and France who did that. Same in Africa, right? These are colonizers. And, you know, they already gave parts for Syria away to Turkey, for example. Antioch used to be Syrian. You know, and right now you have Turkey that's occupying Idlib, right? You have northeastern Syria that's being occupied by the Kurds who are being supported by the United States. And, you know, and in the south, you have the Golan Heights, which are being occupied by the Zionists, by Israel. So hopefully, inshallah, we'll have our independence from them too. You know, it's like they can't, these colonizers come in, they carve everything up, and then they want to like eat away bits of Syria from literally every side. It's unbelievable, right? It's like they just can't stop. They just can't stop. And it's all about the resources, right? Again, Syria is not a huge oil producer or something. I think it's more geopolitical with Syria than anything else. Although some people talk about the Qatar-Turkey pipeline. You know, Venezuela, for example, I agree that's a lot more about resources. Afghanistan, yeah, you know, but Syria is definitely resource rich and self-sufficient. But it's more about, you know, Israel, because Syria is a thorn in Israel's side. It's more like Israel is a thorn in Syria's side, if we're being frank. But you know, there are a lot of reasons for the war on Syria. But you know, inshallah, we'll get rid of all these filthy colonizers, and yeah, you know, again, this is why they're carrying out this war, because Syria is one of the last countries that has not succumbed to Western influence. They hate that shit. They can't stand it, right? Because the whole thing after 45 was like, we're going to still colonize you, but we're going to rebrand it, right? We'll come in with our multinationals. You know, we'll establish cultural relations, right? De Gaulle tried to do this with France, with France and Africa. And, the British, they then created the Commonwealth. And, they still want to dominate these countries politically and economically. And Syria, of course, is not having any of that shit. Even Iran is vilified. Why do you think Iran is vilified since 1979? Because they overthrew the Shah, who's installed by the CIA and MI6, so they can steal their oil, right? So when you stand up to these colonizers, to these filthy fucking thieves, this is what they do to you, right? They will demonize you. They will destroy and plunder and pillage your country because they're fucking scum, right? And Syria is not going to tolerate any of that shit, right? Syria, you know what Syria's nickname is in Arabic? I'll say it in English. It's the beating heart of Arabism, right? The beating heart of Arabism. And I mean, even Syria's name, officially the Syrian Arab Republic. It's an Arab republic, right? So, they can't stand that it's an independent country, that, Syria has no foreign debt. It refuses to handcuff itself to the IMF, to bend the knee, and let all these Western multinationals and banks come in and just, pick the place apart. That's why they're trying to do this, among other reasons, right? It's, as I told you, it's several reasons, but the gist of it is like, you won't do what we say. It's still this colonial mentality, right? That's what it's all about. I mean, they just openly say it like, yeah, we want regime change in your country. Who the fuck are you? Like, that's the matter to be decided between Syrians. It's none of your goddamn business. So, and again, they don't just do this to Syria. They do it to all the countries in the axis of evil. The axis of resistance is more appropriate. So anyway, I just wanted to share just a very, very tiny bit of history with you. And, one last thing that I'd add, at the same time, in the same period where they developed the Sykes-Picot Agreement, of course, there was the Balfour Declaration in 1917 that, the United Kingdom would make Palestine the home of the Zionists, right? So they not only carved up the Middle East and the Levant to their liking, but they also made sure that, they put Israel in the middle, because this is how they do. They divide and conquer. And if you look at their trend, not just Britain and France, all of these colonial powers, they always try to divide based on sectarian lines. Syria does not work like that. Syria is secular. It's, when we talk about a melting pot, this is the melting pot, the real melting pot, right? And you have actual religious social harmony in Syria. At least I hope that the war hasn't chipped away at that too much. Inshallah, it will go back to how it used to be and even better. But they want to divide based on sectarian lines, because then it's easier to control, right? That's why they want to support the Kurds, not because they give a shit about the Kurds. They just want to fracture Syria. That's what they care about. It's the United States, how much do you hear Democrats talk about, oh, the United States is abandoning the Kurds, when actually they were still there, but just for the oil, right? And, they try to do the same thing in Iraq after the invasion. They made sure that you had sectarian violence, when before, like, yeah, of course you had some tensions, but it wasn't on that level. You could walk down the street without a fucking car bomb going off, right? You didn't have Shia and Sunni massacring each other on the same scale, like this violence that erupted. And then they say, oh, look at these Arabs, they're so savage, they all they know is religion, they you can't reason with them. Motherfucker, who is funding these radicals? Who is training them? Who gave them this money? Who allowed these conditions to manifest? The West. So, they come in and do this on purpose. And that's why they also put Israel in the right in the middle of the Arab world, right? I mean, technically speaking, you can walk from Saudi Arabia all the way to Morocco. But, you have they took Palestine and converted it into a Zionist ethno-state. And when there was no need, like, you already had Jews in Palestine, right? Like, I'm talking about the actual people that are native to that area, not like white European Jews. And there was no problem, right? So they just wanted to make that, they just did that as a project, there are various reasons, but one of them was definitely to fracture the Arab world. And, it's disgusting how these colonizers just sit around a table and they draw lines that destroy millions of lives for, decades and decades. But it's okay, right? Syria is still fighting. Syria is standing strong. That's why, that's why we endure, and, we're we're going to keep exposing this imperialist crap. We're not going to accept that, because these people want to continue dictating to us what our borders are, what our flags are, who we can have in charge. You know, something my mother told me just the other day, which her parents told her, right? My grandparents, when they were growing up, if you would speak Arabic, they would beat you, right? In the school, that you had to speak French. So they also try to erase your culture and your history and your language. Can you imagine, right? So, I mean, that's just like one part of it. They were, I mean, just look at what they did in Algeria. They were just massacring people. Did the same thing in Syria, not to the same extent as Algeria, but in Syria, when they had the general strike, when they were also trying to fight for independence, massacring them, just like, you know, spraying protesters. Yeah. And then they want to come around and pretend like they care about giving us freedom. Nah. That's just a rebranding. That's what it is. So anyway, there you go. Yeah. الله يحمي الشعب السوري. So مو بس الشعب السوري طبعا، مو بس الشعب السوري. الله يحمي كمان الشعب الفلسطيني واللبناني والعراقي واليمني وكل المظلومين. كل المظلومين, right? God protect all of the oppressed. So there you go. Just wanted to share a bit of that with you. And Dante, thank you for the super chat. Says you're my favorite, bro. Allah bless you. Slamli Habibi. I appreciate that very much. So let's get into it, man. Let's get into the first segment. And you know, if you guys have questions or there are any super chats, I will read them at the end. Don't worry. I strive to read every single one. So don't worry about that. Okay. And go watch Lawrence of Arabia. It's a great film. I really love that movie, right? I really love it. You can see, like, just watch it. Just watch it. It's good. Anyway, so, oh, by the way, one more thing. So before I forget, because this is important. You know, you had the Zionist occupation, the Israelis, celebrating their quote unquote independence, which again is so hilarious to me, how you can colonize a place and then pretend that you became independent. Okay. So yeah, right. They have no shame. Like they're literally oppressing the Palestinians in Palestine. You know, these people are white European Jews. They're not native to this area. They have 2 passports. A lot of them, they've emigrated, you know, from Europe or elsewhere. They're not native to there, and they've stolen Palestinian land, and then they celebrate their independence. And of course, you had the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, which is another creation of the United Kingdom, literally, right? I think even now, like 80% of the population in the Emirates, they're foreigners. It's like it's a fake fucking country. Anyway, now that they've normalized ties with Israel, look what they were posting on Twitter, if you can believe this, right? This is from the UAE, okay? They're saying, this is the UAE embassy in Israel wishes the people of Israel a happy 73rd Independence Day. How low can you stoop? Like you're on Palestinian land and you act like they're not there. You erase them and you whitewash this fucking, you whitewash this disgusting settler colonialism, this genocide. I wonder if the UAE is going to wish Syria a happy Independence Day today, right? I wonder if these countries, these Arab countries that normalize ties with the Zionist occupation, if they will wish Syria a happy Independence Day. Yeah. And again, when the Zionists are talking about independence, you know, they actually came, a lot of them mass immigrated to Palestine. And, you know, the precursor to the Israeli defense forces, more like Israeli occupation forces, you know, you had these militias, right? Haganah, Hashumir, and, you know, they would basically just go and assassinate anyone who disagreed with Zionism. They bombed the Hotel King David. You know, they killed dozens of British troops. They were just shooting British officers in the street. They were killing other Jews who disagreed with Zionism, who were living in Palestine. You know, they were killing other Palestinians. Like, basically, they committed acts of terrorism, right? And they call it liberating their homeland, but they don't even come from there. They just mass emigrated there and then just bombed their way into so-called independence, and you know, they just crap all over the Palestinians. Like, it's incredible. And this is not me saying this. You know, this is their history. Go and read, for example, a book that I've recommended to you from Ronan Bergman, which is Rise and Kill First. He talks about how their activities were, and it ties into what? It ties into how they behave today, right? When they're going and assassinating foreign scientists and doing all this stuff. So yeah. In any case, this is disgusting, right? These so-called Arab states that are betraying Arabs like that and Palestinians. This is disgraceful, honestly. Ma عندهم شرف. ما عندهم شرف. So, okay, that's the last thing I wanted to say about that, but it was important. Okay, so let's take a look at Red Scare Rachel. Yeah? Red Scare Rachel. And again, thank you for hitting the like button, and thank you for all your support. Let's go, baby. So, you guys remember the story about the bounties, right? This claim that Russia was putting bounties on the heads of US troops in Afghanistan, right? That Russia was allegedly going and paying the Taliban to kill American troops. You remember this from last year? So this was first reported by the New York Times, but of course, even the British media repeated it, right? This is from The Guardian. They're saying, Russia offered bounty to kill UK soldiers. Yeah, okay, well, it turns out, by the way, here's the New York Times one. Russia secretly offered Afghan militants bounties to kill US troops, intelligence says. And they say the Trump administration has been deliberating for months about what to do about a stunning intelligence assessment. Well, it turns out this was all nonsense. This was all nonsense. So now this is again from The Guardian from April 15th. They're saying the United States has a low to moderate confidence in reports of Russian bounty on US troops. So you're telling us that was all nonsense. Is that it? I see. So US intelligence agencies have only, quote, low to moderate confidence, unquote, in reports last year that Russian spies were offering Taliban militants in Afghanistan bounties for killing US soldiers. The reports in the press citing intelligence sources sparked outrage and demands from Democrats for the Trump administration to confront the Kremlin over the issue. Unveiling a raft of sanctions against Russia on Thursday, US officials said that the allegations of Russian bounties was not one of the grounds for imposing the measures, but a warning had been sent to Moscow that there would be a punitive response if such incentives were found to have been paid in the future. So the United States, they just slapped Russia with a bunch of sanctions, okay? And, Biden signed an executive order for that. Let's take a look at it, okay? So they're saying here basically that, Russia is guilty of hacking and interfering in their elections. And, take a look at what Biden said about that, right?
Hello, folks. Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this week, I spoke with President Putin of Russia about the nature of our relationship, the relationship between our two countries. And I was candid, respectful. The conversation was candid and respectful. Two great powers with significant responsibility for global stability. And President Putin and I have had a significant responsibility to steward that relationship. I take that responsibility very seriously, as I'm sure he does. Russia and Americans are both proud and patriotic people. And I believe the Russian people, like the American people, are invested in a peaceful and a secure future of our world. During the campaign for the presidency, I was unequivocal that if I was elected president, I'd respond to any attempt to influence our elections, the last election, and because elections are sacred. They're sovereign undertakings. They're an expression of the will of the American people. And we cannot allow a foreign power to interfere in our democratic process with impunity. And I told them if it turned out that as I thought, that there was engagement in our elections, that I'd respond.
I mean, honestly, the irony of the United States talking about respecting other countries into elections and not interfering in other countries' affairs, that's hilarious. That's so rich coming from the United States. Nonetheless, if we look at the fact sheet that was published by the White House about these sanctions that they've just slapped Russia with. So here you can see the section that says reported Afghanistan bounties. The administration is responding to the reports that Russia encouraged Taliban attacks against US and coalition personnel in Afghanistan based on the best assessments from the intelligence community. Given the sensitivity of this matter, which involves the safety and well-being of our forces, it is being handled through diplomatic, military, and intelligence channels. The safety and well-being of US military personnel and that of our allies and partners is an absolute priority of the United States. So, given that this was not one of the reasons of the sanctions, but it was still mentioned in the fact sheet, someone asked the White House spokesperson, Jen Psaki, about that. So let's take a listen, shall we?
It reports that Russia encouraged Taliban attacks against U.S. and coalition personnel in Afghanistan. The word report seems to leave some ambiguity. Does the White House believe Russia placed bounties on American troops?
Well, I would say first that we felt the reports were enough of a cause of concern that we wanted our intelligence community to look into those reports as a part of this overall assessment. They assessed with low to moderate confidence, as you alluded to, that Russian intelligence officers sought to encourage Taliban attacks against U.S. and coalition personnel in Afghanistan. The reason that they have low to moderate confidence in this judgment is in part because it relies on detainee reporting and due to the challenging environment, and also due to the challenging operating environment in Afghanistan. So it's challenging to gather this intelligence and this data. I will say that we assess, our intelligence community, I should say, assesses that a General Staff Main Intelligence Directorate, GRU, also known as, manage interaction with individuals in Afghan criminal networks. We have high confidence in that assessment, and the involvement of this GRU's unit is consistent with Russia's encouraging attacks against U.S. and coalition personnel in Afghanistan. So while there's low to moderate assessment of these reports, we felt it was important for our intelligence community to look into it, and we of course will not stand by and accept the targeting of our personnel by any elements, including a foreign state actor. This information really puts the burden on Russia and the Russian government to explain their engagement here. Go ahead.
Jen, given that assessment, does the president have any regrets for how many times he attacked President Trump on the campaign about this issue for not taking action related to the Russian bounties?
Well, I'm not going to speak to the previous administration, but I will say that we had enough concern about these reports and about the targeting of our men and women serving, the men and women who are proudly serving around the world, that we wanted our intelligence community to look into it. Now, again, there are several factors that contributed to the low to moderate confidence in the judgment, including the difficulty of the operating environment, and of course the reliance on detainee reporting. At the same time, we still feel there are questions to be answered by the Russian government.
Another on foreign policy. With the Russia decision, with the Afghanistan decision, just trying to get a sense of how the administration operates here. There's still Americans unjustly detained in Russia. I believe there's an American who was kidnapped by.
Those are a lot of words to say that it's not true, right? Oh, we cared enough about it to look into it, and the Russia. It's bullshit. There were no bounties. It's nonsense. Interesting, right? Do you remember how furious all these Democrats were? Oh my God, Trump! Look at what he's doing. He's enabling Putin. Oh, Russia, 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 Russia. How dare you? How dare you abandon our sacred troops? Right? Do you remember that? From The Guardian, look. Outrage mounts over report Russia offered bounties to Afghanistan militants for killing U.S. soldiers. They were losing it. They were absolutely losing it. Just to remind you, here's a very succinct supercut from Daily Caller. Take a look.
In our Worldly Today, President Trump dismissing the Russian bounty intelligence story as a hoax meant to damage him and Republicans. The president often touts his relationship with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin.
The White House also responding tonight to a bombshell report accusing Russia of offering bounties to the Taliban to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan.
And now you know from this reporting in the New York Times, which has since been confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, that not only does the president know that Russia was paying for American soldiers' deaths.
News. Get this. The Washington Post is now reporting that the alleged Russian bounties to Taliban fighters in Afghanistan are believed to have resulted in the deaths of U.S. troops.
Like this New York Times story about a stunning U.S. intel assessment, finding that Russia secretly offered Afghan militants bounties to kill U.S. troops.
So comes under fire over those bombshell reports that the White House was told Russia was paying bounties to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
The most important application of that question is, what did the president know about Vladimir Putin offering a bounty for the killing of American soldiers in Afghanistan, and when did he know it?
A senior Afghan official confirmed to CBS News that the reports were not only true, but the Russian government achieved some success with their plans.
Barry Cayley, I cannot tell a lie McEnany, insists the president does in fact read everything he needs to read. We need to look at the real threat to U.S. troops and the risk that Russia was putting a bounty on their heads.
That Americans found out this weekend that Vladimir Putin is paying to put bounties on the heads of American troops.
I can't stand
telling CNN that the White House was warned about Russia offering bounties, actual bounties to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
He's not even there yet. He's still suggesting that the reporting about the fact that there were these bounties offered is fake. Meanwhile, your organization, the New York Times and others, are getting some fairly detailed reporting about how it actually works.
Despite those denials over and over, sources tell CNN that last week the U.S. even shared that intelligence with British officials, as some of the British troops would have been targeted as well.
Yeah, to say nothing of putting bounties on American troops.
It's unbelievable, Joy.
Yeah.
Public report.
That's the only honest thing Hillary has ever said in her life. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, to say nothing of putting bounties on American troops.
It's unbelievable, Joy.
Yeah.
Oh God! Like, you can see that she knows it's bullshit. It's unbelievable. Oh my God! They are such crappy actors. They really are. They really are. How they sit there on MSNBC, right? Like, you just hear the hum from the studio equipment. It's like dead silence. It's like that he knew, and he told us over and over, and did not stand up to Vladimir Putin. How is it possible that all of these news outlets, with zero evidence, just accept whatever these unnamed intelligence sources tell them and report it as fact, right? They don't even scrutinize it. It's not like, okay, we looked into this and, we made sure that we did our due diligence and, after really excruciating reporting, we found so-and-so. No, it's just, look, these are what the sources told us, and this is how it is, right? We just accept it blindly, and we just report it as fact, right? I mean, if you want to come here and talk about state media, that is state media, right? As Glenn pointed out on Twitter earlier, that's like the definition of state media. Just you just take and just repeat like a parrot whatever they say without any evidence. Like there's no evidence for it. It's completely false, right? And you remember what Biden was saying? Do you remember how he was scolding Trump about this?
President Trump, the commander-in-chief of American troops serving in a dangerous theater of war, has known about this for months, according to the Times, and done worse than nothing. Not only has he failed to sanction or impose any kind of consequences on Russia for this egregious violation of international law, Donald Trump has continued his embarrassing campaign of deference and debasing himself before Vladimir Putin. He has this information, according to the Times, and yet he offered to host Putin in the United States and sought to invite Russia to rejoin the G7. His entire presidency has been a gift to Putin.
I like how now he's president and he did not sanction Putin either for that. And well, we had a respectful conversation on the phone. Basically, this entire video is Biden saying how dare Trump not blindly swallow some bogus that was put out by the intelligence community, and how dare he be diplomatic with another power. Oh my God, the travesty. The travesty. Like, out of all the crap that you could criticize Trump for, legitimately, like really abhorrent, heinous things that he's done and said, no, we're gonna criticize him for not swallowing our nonsense, right? And again, this is what is so amazing, is that you had other outlets coming around and confirming this propaganda for the New York Times, right? So here's John Hudson from Washington Post. Okay, this is dated June 27th, 2020. He says, "We have confirmed the New York Times scoop. A Russian military spy unit offered bounties to Taliban-linked militants to attack coalition forces in Afghanistan." See, the whole team of them, man. It's a whole team of them. They all confirmed it. They confirmed it. And I love how it's not just they confirmed it. It's, oh man, we know that Trump isn't even reading his briefings. Like, it's Trump's fault as well, right? Unbelievable. And you remember Kamala Harris saying Donald Trump called John McCain a loser? I'd go with terrorist. But she says also he let Putin get away with placing bounties on the heads of our troops. David Frum, this former Bush speechwriter, this disgusting neocon at the time, is saying, the story about the Russian bounty was reported by the New York Times, Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. That doesn't mean it's certainly true, but it does mean that very credible people in the U.S. intelligence service are angry and alarmed. And of course, right, this is this plausible deniability, so that when it ultimately comes out that it's all nonsense, hey, look, man, I didn't say it's true, but, you know, it's sort of true. And you remember that they used this, right? They used this story about Russian bounties as an excuse to extend the war in Afghanistan, right? Once again, in true bipartisanship for all things war and corporate, Democrats came together with Liz Cheney, the demon spawn of Dick Cheney, who started the war in Afghanistan, and they imposed, they basically forbid Trump to use any funds for the withdrawal, right? And they also said that in order to withdraw, you need to meet these conditions, right? And they basically amended that to the National Defense Authorization Act. And here, I think Glenn wrote about this in July 2nd, 2020. So, basically, the House Armed Services Committee voted overwhelmingly in favor of an amendment jointly sponsored by Democrat Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado and Congresswoman Cheney, right? Congresswoman Halliburton, prohibiting the expenditure of monies to reduce the number of U.S. troops deployed in Afghanistan below 8,000 without a series of conditions first being met. And, they, of course, cited the bounties as a reason for that, right? Shortly after those White House withdrawal plans were reported, anonymous intelligence officials leaked a series of claims to the New York Times. Brilliant, immaculate timing, right? Regarding bounties allegedly being paid by Russia to Taliban fighters to kill U.S. troops. Amazing, right? Amazing how that comes right at the always on time. And it's of course hilarious to me that they even try to sell this story, because not only is it, of course, oh, look, well, these sources tell us, which is what happened during the Iraq War, right? The entire WMD's fiasco. Why was it so scandalous? Because the entire press corps on both sides of the Atlantic was just repeating everything that the intelligence community said, even when it was completely fake. You had Dick Cheney, who, again, God, that family is a curse, coming along and pressuring right, the intelligence agencies to come up with stuff to make it look like that Iraq has WMDs, right? You remember Deep Throat as well? I mean, they conjured up all of this, and no one scrutinized it. There's no scrutiny, right? So these outlets, they're not performing their duty as, you know, a fourth estate. They're not actually holding power accountable. They're upholding the government. They're aiding it. They just repeat whatever it is, right? They don't care. They don't care. And, you know, it's incredible because Rachel Maddow, just as late as last week, okay, so this is when April 8th, I went and I looked for this and I found it and I recorded it and I had to suffer through it, so you're going to suffer through it with me as well. This is as late as last week, okay? April 8th. I want you to listen to her podcast. Not the whole thing. I'm not a sadist, but listen to this.
Already in Russia, your guess is as good as mine. But as all this is unfolding, Bloomberg News reports tonight that the Biden administration is preparing a set of retaliatory actions against Russia for a range of offenses, including their interference in the 2020 election, their alleged bounties on U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan, and also their treatment of Alexei Navalny. Bloomberg pointing out that these actions will be the outcome of an intelligence review of Russia's...
See, she's still repeating it. She's still repeating this nonsense about bounties, right? She loves it. She loves it. Here, let me remind you. I know you're going to hate this, but I have to. I'm sorry. Right? This also from June 2020.
It's one level of bad to realize that Russia is doing this, right? That the U.S. intelligence has concluded that Russia is paying cash money to people for killing U.S. troops. That is very, very bad. But it's a whole nother level of bad to know that the U.S. president has known that Russia was doing that for 4 months. And during that time, he's chosen to do nothing about it. That is a whole other level of crisis.
Where are you getting this from?
In fact, during the time that the president has had this information, he's had at least a half dozen apparently super chummy phone calls with the Russian president. After those phone calls, he has made a bunch of unilateral offers to Russia of policy stuff that Russia might want for free, with him asking nothing in return. The president during this time has advocated that Russia get back into the G7. When other members of the G7 said no over our dead bodies, he canceled the G7. He also moved to take thousands of U.S. troops out of Germany, which is a longtime Russian priority to get that many U.S. and NATO forces out of Germany. That apparently he didn't even talk to the Pentagon or the State Department about in advance. The president just announced he would be granting that Russian wish in exchange for, again, nothing. And he has done these things. He has had these half dozen conversations with Putin and made those unilateral offers to Russia to give them things they want after he reportedly was briefed. After the White House had started convening high-level meetings to discuss the fact that the Russian president is paying cash, literally cash, dollars, for the murder of Americans in Afghanistan.
Oh, she's insufferable. Shut the fuck up, you goddamn swan-necked motherfucker. Look at how melodramatic she is. Like, she's convinced, like she was in the room. She was hiding under the desk when Trump was briefed. Like, I was there. He was briefed. He did nothing. I mean, where is she getting this from? Like, who writes this crap? This is literally fiction. It's fiction. And then, of course, it doesn't stop there, right? They went on and said Iran was placing bounties. Iran, right? Iran was placing bounties on American troops, right? Because Iran has nothing better to do. Iran has so much foreign currency, by the way, right? Under sanctions. They just have it lying around, man. Yeah, they can just spare it on bounties. Like, unbelievable. That was a copy-paste job. A copy-paste job. I posted it on Twitter. They copied and pasted the headline and changed Russia to Iran, right? And I told you, you're going to have Chinese bounties, Syrian bounties, chocolate bounties. They're going to do all of it. You think that because this Russian bounty thing is debunked for now, they're not going to continue the Iran bounties or the China bounties? They can still use that. They could still use that. And what's astounding to me is that this is not even news. Already back in September, I covered this with you guys. You had a top general from Afghanistan, right? Top U.S. general in Afghanistan saying that all this talk about the bounties, the evidence is inconclusive, meaning it's bogus, right? So I'm also a bit confused why everyone is saying that, acting as if that's, I mean, we knew from the moment that they came up with this. I told you it's bullshit. I told you this in June last year, right? The entire premise of it is ridiculous. Like, the Taliban do not need money to be convinced to kill American or British or coalition troops. They even say it basically in the original New York Times report. Although, again, you don't need that because it's common sense, right? So here, let me read this to you, all right? Mujahid, a spokesman for the Taliban, denied that the insurgents have any such relations with any intelligence agency and called the report an attempt to defame them. These kinds of deals with the Russian intelligence agency are baseless. Our target killings and assassinations were ongoing in years before, and we did it on our own resources. That changed after our deal with the Americans, and their lives are secure and we don't attack them, right? I mean, he's basically saying, like, you don't need to pay us. We do that pro bono, right? Yeah, I mean, that's obvious, right? And as a matter of fact, what's ironic is that the United States was paying the Mujahideen to kill Russians in Afghanistan. That's how they created Al-Qaeda in the first place, ultimately, right? They were funneling all these Stinger missiles and training and assets, right? And the CIA was coming in, and they were training and funding the Mujahideen to go and kill Russians. Not bounties. No. Fucking, surface to air missiles. Here, machine guns, like arming them to the teeth, go and kill Russians. And now they just flip the script. I mean, it's just unbelievable, right? This only works when you make sure that your population stays ignorant. And how do they stay ignorant? With this kind of brain mush inducing rubbish. It's truly astonishing. It's truly astonishing, right? I want to read you a tweet over here from Professor Max Abrams. Had him on my show. He's really great. And he said here that the bullshit Russian bounty story was useful for the establishment to block Trump from getting a win in withdrawing American forces from Afghanistan. The bullshit story was removed the moment that the establishment wanted to give Biden a win by doing the same thing as Trump had wanted to do. That definitely has some truth to it. Definitely, it's funny how all those things you heard those anchors saying, more like propagandists, like Rachel Maddow saying, like, oh my God, he's engaging in diplomacy with Putin. He was on the phone. He's withdrawing troops now, and he didn't get anything in return. Yeah, okay. What did Biden get from the Russians to withdraw troops from Afghanistan? Was he not just on the phone now? Did he also not sanction Russia based on the bounties? He did everything that you just vilified Trump for. And again, no one cares about Trump, right? We're not trying to defend Trump, but it's just, look at the hypocrisy, right? It's the same crap, but now that Biden is doing it, they're okay with it, right? Again, this was just a story that they used in order to prolong the war. And I mean, even Trump is scummy in of himself, because if he actually wanted to withdraw from Afghanistan completely, you could do that in 24 hours, right? He didn't completely withdraw on purpose because, yeah, I mean, okay, first of all, you had the peace deal, but why was it May 1st, like after the election, right? Why were you deferring that to the next president, right? He wanted to use that as a kind of re-election, boost. That's it. Like, oh, look at me, I'm so anti-war, I'm anti-interventionist. And he goes and bombs Syria, bombs Iran, bombs Yemen, bombs Libya. Yeah, really anti-interventionist. And that's why he didn't completely do it. He was thinking that, okay, I can still appease both parties, but these people are really disgusting, honestly. These propagandists, a lot of them are still on the air, like Shep Smith, like Brian Williams, like Nicole Wallace. Nicole Wallace came in a bit after, but Shep Smith, Brian Williams. I mean, these people, Wolf Blitzer, they were selling the war in Iraq. Again, the same thing. They just blindly believed everything about WMDs. Look, Iraq has WMDs. Oh my God, 45 minutes away from attack. Look, he sent anthrax letter to Congress. Oh my God, they're sending chemical weapons to Congress now. What does it count? It counts a biological weapon, right? And then they're saying also, oh my God, look, Saddam, he's going to give nuclear weapons to Al-Qaeda. We have confirmation. And even Donald Rumsfeld was not even able to defend that crap. He's like, we have known knowns and unknown knowns. And a word salad, and they just report it, right? The Washington Post, what's their headline after Colin Powell gives that presentation? This disgusting display at the UN Security Council, right? What does the Washington Post say in their headline? Irrefutable. Irrefutable. They just irrefutable. Here's a stamp of approval. This is irrefutable. This guy's bringing cartoon drawings of trucks as evidence of mobile bioweapons facilities. And they just rubber stamp it and report it as fact. That's how heinous these people are. And they're still here, right? They're still on the air, and they just keep doing the same crap because their whole job is to propagandize people. It's not to educate them or actually to hold power accountable and scrutinize the government. No, they're just a mouthpiece for the intelligence agencies. And I want to show you a clip over here. This is from a former CIA agent, all right, John Stockwell. And he's going to explain to you how the CIA and, of course, other intelligence agencies, and I'm sure the British do this all over the world, he's going to explain to you how they peddle propaganda to the mainstream media. Okay? So take a look. That's, of course, if they're not doing it willingly, which is unfortunately already the case. But take a look at this, right?
What's happening in Nicaragua today from Honduras. Another thing is to disseminate propaganda to influence people's minds. And this is a major function of the CIA. And unfortunately, of course, it overlaps into the gathering of information. You have contact with a journalist, you will give him true stories, you'll get information from him, you'll also give him false stories.
But you do buy his confidence with true stories?
You buy his confidence and set him up. We've seen this happen recently with Jack Anderson, for example, who has his intelligence sources, and he has also admitted that he's been set up by them. Every fifth story just simply being false. You also work on their human vulnerabilities to recruit them in a classic sense, to make them your agent so that you can control what they do, so you don't have to set them up sort of, by putting one over on them. So you can say, here, plant this one next Tuesday.
Can you do this with responsible reporters?
Yes, the Church Committee brought it out in 1975, and then Woodward and Bernstein put an article in Rolling Stone a couple of years later. 400 journalists cooperating with the CIA, including some of the biggest names in the business, to consciously introduce the stories into the press.
Well,
you heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Straight from the horse's mouth. And his name's John Stockwell, right? The video's about 15 minutes long. And, he goes on to detail how he would also go and meet with the British ambassador. He would meet with, other foreign dignitaries and diplomats that were stationed abroad and tell them, like, if this journalist comes knocking and asking you about this troop movement that I told him about, or this story that I fed him, confirm it. Tell him it's true. So, these journalists would think that they're going to different sources to get confirmation, and they're all in on it, these different sources. Right? It's orchestrated. Cunning bastards, right? Cunning bastards. And you know what's hilarious to me after all this is that, by the way, just before I move on to my next point, this tweet over here, this is from Sean McCarthy. And, it's like I said, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, MSNBC, CNN, Daily Beast, New York Times, all confirmed and boosted this completely fake story. Again, you would have a better understanding of how the world actually works if you followed QAnon than if you credulously read corporate media. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, right? They all just circle jerk each other and confirm it for each other, but it's bogus, right? It's bogus because no one's going to hold them accountable, right? They're serving the establishment. What's going to happen to them? Nothing. And, what's incredible to me is that after all of this, the only takeaway from Republicans, from conservatives, is that, look how mean they were to Trump. These radical left Democrats, they're so mean to Trump. Bitch, fuck you and fuck Trump. It's not about Trump. This is about the national security state and the media collaborating to prolong wars, to propagandize people, to publish propaganda, nonsense, fabrications. That's the fucking issue. Not Donald Trump. Oh my God. Like, it's unbelievable, right? They're just about to get over the finish line and they just won't connect the dots. They just can't connect the dots, right? They can't connect the dots. And you had the former White House spokesperson going on Fox and railing about that, right? Oh, they're so mean to Trump.
Of questions about the Russia bounties. I cautioned reporters on the first day the story came out, and I said, look, do not be so quick to buy this New York Times story. This information is unverified. There are dissenting opinions in the intelligence community. Do not run with this narrative. It's just simply not true and not the case. But not only did they run with it, it is remarkable if you take a walk through memory lane at the New York Times, convincing military families who had their loved ones killed in action that, in fact, Russia bounties were probably to blame. And not only that, but their commander-in-chief, President Donald Trump, just simply didn't care. It was a heinous allegation. They ran with it. CNN dropped the word alleged from their reporting. The Washington Post said they had verified the reporting and then went on to give President Trump 4 Pinocchios over it. It was amazing. It was a story that a narrative.
Right. So again, this is what I find so hilarious about all these outlets, right? They all do fact checking now, as if that wasn't a prerequisite to journalism. You should have been fact checking before. Nonetheless, the Washington Post, their branding of it is Pinocchios, right? So if a story is false, or Trump would say something that they deem to be a lie, they would give him a rating of Pinocchios, right? And now they're outraged because the Washington Post won't remove it, right? They're still keeping that rating that Trump lied about the bounties when they lied about the bounties. But anyway, it's not like Xi and Trump were not getting up on that podium every day and, lying themselves, giving their own propaganda. Two sides of the same coin. Remember that. Two sides of the same coin. And, 99% of the time in all matters war and propaganda and, jingoism and xenophobia, they usually all agree, Democrats, Republicans. They usually always agree on virtually everything, right? So anyway, I just find it incredible that, this whole story, they ran with it. And even though they're kind of putting it on the back burner for now, it's like, they're still going forward with Russiagate, right? They're still saying now that, oh, look, we have more evidence that the Trump campaign colluded. Oh my God, they won't ever drop it. Oh, I asked on Twitter, like, if they don't teach Americans about McCarthyism in school, about the Red Scare. Some of you answered that yes. I mean, there were thousands of answers. I couldn't read all of them, but my impression was that most of you said no. Which is unfortunate. I mean, this is what the Democrats are doing. It's just, it's a new iteration of McCarthyism. That's it. Oh, Red Scare. Oh my God, the Russians. Unbelievable. Honestly, unbelievable. These people are such scum. They really are. Right. So I feel like I said everything I want to say. I'm just really astounded that people would believe that in the first place. Like, as if, you would need to pay a native local population money to resist an occupation. Like, how does that even make sense? Again, we just went through it, man. I'm done. Like, I don't know how many times I have to debunk this nonsense. Seriously, it's horrendous. So let's take a look at this next story. And again, thank you for all your donations. I'm gonna read them at the end. If you have any questions or notes, I'll get to them at the end. Thank you for that. And before I move on to the next segment, you can support the show on Venmo, CashApp, or PayPal. There's also Patreon. There's also Rockfin. And thank you to everyone who's watching on Rockfin. Shout out to the OGs who are on Rockfin, because again, we need alternative platforms. Thank you so much for that. And again, if you're not subscribed, definitely go and subscribe. It's free. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. You guys are fucking awesome. We're like at 88, I think 88 subscribers on Rockfin. I mean like paid subscribers, which basically gives you everyone's premium. So not just me, like every channel, Jimmy, Dore, you name it. All the other channels that are there, you get their premium. And you're supporting them too. Like there are no ads. So if you go and watch a video from, Lee Camp, then he'll get paid from those $10 a month, right? It's distributed that way. I think that's amazing. And we're almost at 100 on Rockfin. Seriously, thank you so much for that. And for supporting independent media. I really appreciate it. So let's get to the next segment. And of course, like I said, I'll get to all of these various super chats at the end and your questions. Thank you for that. So, all right. The malarkey train. Keep going, man. The malarkey train. We're not done. So, Joe Biden, he announced that he's going to maintain the cap on refugees that was put in place by Trump. Okay, let me read you the official statement from the White House. So this was announced on April 16th. Okay, and he says basically that these are the official numbers, right? So they're going to take in 7,000 refugees from Africa, 1,000 from East Asia, and it's basically a total of 15,000, just like under Trump. And that is the lowest number that it's ever been. Okay. And he said that basically this action is justified by grave humanitarian concerns and is otherwise in the national interest. That's it. So he lied, right? He said during the campaign that he would undo this action by Trump because Trump cut the number of refugees that the United States was taking in down to 15,000. And that was a campaign promise from Trump, from Biden, Freudian slip, they're the same, that he would undo it. And all of a sudden, actually, because there was so much outcry from, well, there was a lot of people, there was a lot of outcry. Here's from AOC. AOC said, "This is completely and utterly unacceptable. Biden promised to welcome immigrants and people voted for him based on that promise. Upholding the xenophobic and racist policies of the Trump administration, including the historically low and plummeted refugee cap, is flat out wrong. Keep your promise." We also had a statement from Pramila Jayapal, who's the chair of the Progressive Caucus in the House. So she said that it's simply unacceptable and unconscionable that the Biden administration is not immediately repealing Donald Trump's harmful, xenophobic, and racist refugee cap that cruelly restricts refugee admissions to a historically low level. After 4 painful years of fighting Trump's all-out draconian assault on immigrants, Biden promised to restore America as a beacon of hope and committed to increasing our refugee resettlement numbers. By failing to sign an emergency presidential determination to lift Trump's historically low refugee cap, Biden has broken his promise to restore our humanity. We cannot turn our back on refugees around the world, including hundreds of refugees who have already been cleared for resettlement, have sold their belongings, and are ready to board flights. So that's the issue also, right? He has the possibility until May 15th to sign an emergency presidential determination. And as Pramila Jayapal points out, there are many people who've already been cleared to come to the United States, who've been approved. They've been vetted, they've been approved. And I read about one woman, she was pregnant, she had her ticket ready, and Trump, again, Freudian slip, Biden did not sign the emergency presidential determination. And then she entered her 3rd trimester, so she can't fly anymore. She lost the money from her ticket, and now she's in limbo basically. Doesn't know when she's coming. So I mean, what is that? Like, you want to come here and tell me that this guy's different from Trump? How is he different from Trump? Every single day we're covering one policy after the other where he's just like Trump. And we had a joint letter that was written by Ilhan Omar and a couple of other Democrats. By the way, it's worth pointing out that Ilhan Omar herself came to the United States when she was younger as a refugee from Somalia, right? So this is a joint letter that was written to Biden, and they said, "We are writing to express the urgent need for your administration to immediately sign an emergency presidential determination to formalize the proposed revised fiscal year 2021 refugee admissions goal of 62,500. Okay? Now, where does this number come from, 62,500? Let me show you. So basically, the State Department they made a proposition, okay? They made a proposal that to respond to all of these unforeseen and urgent situations around the world, a revised target of 62,500 refugees is proposed and is justified by grave humanitarian concerns and is in the national interest, okay? So that's where this figure comes from, all right? So going back to the letter that was written by Ilhan Omar and signed by other Democrats. So as I said here, you know, before, we have all been deeply distressed at the stories of hundreds of refugees who had been cleared for resettlement, having their flights canceled at the last minute. And, you know, she talks about Somalia, Syria, and Yemen. And I want to just show you again something from this assessment from the State Department. Okay. So if you look at Syria, it's designated as a priority source, right? Okay, so here we go. This is the spot I'm looking for. Although they say here, although the United States has resettled over 22,000 Syrian refugees since the conflict began in 2011, lower refugee admissions numbers and nationality restrictions led to a significant drop in the resettlement of Syrian nationals since fiscal year 2016. Increasing the overall refugee admissions number and eliminating nationality restrictions would allow the United States to resettle greater numbers of the nearly 29,000 Syrian refugees currently pending in the U.S. refugee settlement program. So, you know, it's crazy that you have 29,000 Syrians waiting in line, which is more than the total number the United States has taken in to begin with, right? That's incredible. And it's not just Syria, of course, right? Ethiopia, Central African Republic, Venezuela, Somalia. I mean, you look at the assessment from the State Department, and they go through all these various countries and talk about why they're accepting refugees from there. And then basically, because of all this backlash, Biden reversed it. Okay, so there was so much backlash from Democrats in the last 2-3 days. He reversed course. Okay, but by how much, we don't know. We don't know. So here, New York Times reported that after backlash, Biden will increase the limit on refugee admissions. Okay, and basically, there was a statement put out by, again, Jen Psaki, the press secretary, and I'm going to read it to you, okay? So she says here, the president's directive today has been the subject of some confusion. Last week, he sent to Congress his budget for the fiscal year starting in October 2021, which honors his commitment. For the past few weeks, he has been consulting with his advisors to determine what number of refugees could realistically be admitted to the United States between now and October 1st. Given the decimated refugee admissions program we inherited and burdens on the Office of Refugee Resettlement, his initial goal of 62,500 seems unlikely. While finalizing that determination, the president was urged to take immediate action to reverse the Trump policy that banned refugees from many key regions, to enable flights from those regions to begin within days. Today's order did that. With that done, we expect the president to set a final increased refugee cap for the remainder of this fiscal year by May 15th. So, I mean, she's basically just repeating that, you know, he's going to keep his promise with that figure of 62,500 when the new fiscal year starts in October. But we still don't know how many the United States is going to take in from now until October. And he has until May 15th to determine that. Now, from reports I read, he's going to probably do that within the next couple of days. I mean, what I want to say here, man, I think that even if he's taking in 62,500 starting tomorrow morning, yeah, that's a drop in the ocean. That's a drop in the ocean, right? You know, when the war in Iraq started in 2003, as a result of that, 3 million Iraqis went to Syria as refugees. Just to Syria alone, you had 3 million Iraqis. Million. Right now, in Turkey, you have 3 million Syrian refugees in Turkey. So what is 22,000 Syrians? And then an additional 29,000 Syrians. What is that? That's a drop in the ocean. That's a drop in the ocean. That doesn't fix anything. You know, again, let me just show you this trend over here, right? So this is U.S. refugee admissions and refugee resettlement ceilings from the 80s, 1980 until 2020. Okay, you can see when Trump comes in, it drops, right? It was 85,000. He brings it down to around 15,000. And then, you know, Biden's saying he's going to keep it. Now he's saying he's going to reverse that. I mean, how on earth, honestly, does this make up for the millions of people displaced by these wars that the United States has started? It doesn't even begin. It doesn't even begin to account for that. Not even close. Not even close. Here, let me show you this, okay? This is from the UN Refugee Agency, okay? Inside Syria alone, you have 6.7 million people that have been internally displaced. Inside Syria, okay? You have 6.6 million Syrian refugees worldwide, okay? And 5.6 million of them are hosted in countries near Syria. So again, we're talking about Lebanon. I think Lebanon has about 1 million refugees from Syria. Again, Turkey has about 3 million. And, you know, it's just, I find this astounding that these countries like the United Kingdom, like France, you know, the United States, they go and destroy countries. They bomb the infrastructure to rubble. They destroy people's livelihoods. They take away their jobs. They destroy the crops. They steal the oil. They plunder it. They put sanctions and embargoes. They choke the entire country. They turn people into refugees in their own country. They send others into other countries. And then they sit there in their ivory tower and they're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll take like a few thousand. Motherfucker, I swear to God, if you took every single Syrian refugee, that would still not make up for what you did to Syria. And the same thing for Iraq, and the same thing for Libya, and the same thing for Yemen and Afghanistan, and the same thing for all the countries in Central Latin America that the United States destroyed in its coups. It would still not make up for it. How do you bring back the friends, the families that they lost? How do you bring back their homes and their livelihoods? How do you take away that trauma? And even then, they're like, oh no, we'll just take like 20,000. Motherfucker. Motherfucker. You know, it would be better if you took 0 refugees, but you stopped bombing countries and producing refugees. Right? Don't take any refugees, but stop fucking creating them. Your neoliberal policies, your fucking warmongering, your airstrikes, your drone strikes, your regime change is creating refugees. So don't come here now and tell me that you're not even going to take the refugees that you created. And then they have the audacity to call them migrants. What are they migrating from? What are they emigrating from? Why are they leaving their homes and leaving everything they know behind? Why would someone do that? Maybe because you destroyed their economy. Maybe because you plundered their country. You robbed them of, any kind of economic security, social stability. These fucking colonizers, they come in and they plunder and they destroy and they occupy and they sanction and they starve. They impose siege warfare and they bomb you. And then they have the nerve to say, oh no, we're just going to take, a few people this year and, maybe next year a few more. And it's a drop in the ocean, man. It doesn't even begin to suffice. And then when people are crossing the channel, right, they're going from France to the UK. What do the news do? What does the media do? Sky News. They come and film them like they're animals, watching them drown in a dinghy. Like they're animals. They dehumanize them. You got people going all the way from sub-Saharan Africa to Libya and risking their lives crossing the Mediterranean. Dozens that are drowning. What do you think drives people to do that, to risk their lives like that? It's your policies that did that. That's colonialism. That's Western imperialism. Hundreds of years of slavery, of stealing, of oppression. And they keep doing it now, but rebranded, right? Now we're not We're not colonizing you. No. We're liberating you. We're giving you democracy. We care so much about you. Here, let's take away your food. So, honestly, I'm not impressed, right? I'm not impressed. These people have done so much damage that this, what is that even? What is that? They add insult to injury. That's what they're doing. They add insult to injury. Do you know how many years it's going to take to rebuild Libya? Do you know how much money that's going to take? Do you know how much time that's going to take? Why do you think people are going to your country? Why do you think they're going to the UK? Why do you think they go to Germany? Why do you think they're going to the United States? What do these countries have that we don't? They have wealth. And where did they get that wealth? It fell out of the sky? They fucking stole it. They spent centuries fucking stealing it. They're still stealing it right now. They're starting wars over resources to steal more, to steal Venezuela's oil, to steal Bolivia's lithium, Afghanistan's lithium and gold and precious stones, to steal Iran's oil, Iraq's oil. They're still doing it. That's why they're developed. That's why people go there, because you took their fucking wealth. And then you have the goddamn stones to build a wall. Both Trump and Biden building a wall and then peering down and deciding, how many refugees that they created they might maybe allow in. What scum, honestly? What scum? And you know what the kicker is? Biden himself, just 2 weeks ago, he said, "Oh, my grandfather came in on an iron coffin ship from Ireland," and then Blinken, during his confirmation hearing, talks about how, his stepfather also came after surviving the Holocaust. All these people, Kamala Harris, right? Also, her parents came to the United States. All these people emigrated to the United States. Many of them were persecuted, right? They came to the United States because they were persecuted, because they wanted shelter, because they sought refuge. And now they turn around, right? Their children turn around and refuse to afford others that same comfort and that same refuge. How despicable. You know how many refugees Syria has taken in? Syria took in millions of Palestinians. Syria took in millions of Armenians after the genocide by the Ottomans. Syria took in millions of Iraqis after the American invasion, the UK invasion. Syria has nowhere near the same amount of resources or wealth or infrastructure or capacity to deal with it like the United Kingdom, like the United States. And Syria still does it because Syria has fucking humanity. And other countries, the same thing. They take in millions more, even more than they can handle, because they have humanity. These people, the West, is not humane. They are inhumane. They're colonizers. They're plunderers. They are merchants of death and destruction. And then they have the fucking stones to turn away the people that they displaced, whose suffering they caused and engineered. This is devilish. This is despicable. This is evil. So you want to come here and talk about a difference of a few thousand? No. You've displaced millions. Millions of Afghanis have been displaced. Millions of Afghans have been displaced because of your invasion, right? Millions have been displaced from Iraq. Millions from Syria, from Libya, from Central and Latin America. You created that. You engineered that. You participated in that. How fucking dare you? This makes me so angry. This injustice. And again, it's not just war, right? You might be thinking, oh, it's just because of war. What about the global South in general? Why is the global South not at the same developed level as the West? Why? Once again, they took all that wealth. They oppressed these people. The British colonized India for centuries, right? They colonized Africa. The French as well. They made sure that you can't develop. How are you going to develop when you're enslaved? How can you develop when you're under occupation? And on top of that, they take the wealth, right? They took all that wealth, the spices, the oil, the rubber. They profited off of that. And then they call people who are living in economic misery and instability migrants, not refugees. Oh no, they're migrants. like as if they're just casually moving from one place to another because they have nothing better to do. This is how they whitewash their colonial behavior. This is how they whitewash the occupation that they impose on others. So that's it, man. Give me a second. I just need some water. All right, hold on. I'm trying not to show my drink. There we go. Hold on. I don't know if my audio is working anymore, but I'll get to your super chats, and I thank you for your support. Let me read them. You guys are very kind. So we got one over here from Knowledge Gizmo. Knowledge Gizmo says, nothing to say but money well spent. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Plain Breaker says, a long sail, Richie. My brain is fried. Someone please explain the context to me. But regardless, thank you, Plain, for the super chat. I appreciate it. You'll excuse me. For some reason, after a certain time, YouTube does not show the initial ones, so I have to go for some reason and dig for them in the settings. You'll excuse me as I look for them. I think it's over here. Does this every time lately? Have you realized? So I see them here. I see them here now. This is from Florin. Thank you, Florin, for the sticker. I appreciate it. Jordan says, quote, we will know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. William Casey, the 13th CIA director. Hey. Again, man, the media's job in the United States and the UK is not to inform people, it's to brainwash them. And then they have the stones to talk about, state media in other countries. There is no stronger and more dangerous state media than in the UK and the United States. And even you could argue in France, it's quite bad. But I really think Britain and the United States take the cake. It's exceptionally bad and dangerous. So there are also a lot of you that have donated on Rockfin. Thank you so much. We got 41 people watching on Rockfin. I love to see it. Let me read your super chats. And your tips on Rockfin. Again, I'm gonna pull this up on the screen because I think I can do that. Whereas with the YouTube one, it won't let me for some reason. So let me pull that up on the screen, all right? One moment. Okay, I think we got it. Here we go. So again, if you're not on Rockfin, go make an account. It's free. Don't cost you nothing. You just got to log in. That's basically it. But thank you to everyone who is subscribed to the premium for $10 a month because you're helping all of Lefty Media. So thank you for that so much. Let me zoom in so you guys can read these. Where did it go? All right, I'm going to stay like that. Hopefully you can read that. Emblem Fate says, how is Russiagate not called out for the extreme racism it is? If I went on the street shouting Africans, Mexicans, and Arabs are killing our troops and hacking our elections, you'd rightfully call me racist and crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Like I've talked about this before, but it's just like it's unbelievable the Russophobia that they have, right? It's I honestly wonder how Russians perceive this. I mean, they must be looking at the West, at Britain, at the United States, and just thinking like these people are batshit, that the Cold War is over. Well, not, at least officially. And they're still blaming us for everything. Yeah, it is extremely xenophobic. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And they're trying to do the same thing with China now, right? With saying that, China is the new threat. We have to watch out for China. We got to refocus our military on China. China is committing human rights abuses. Like, dude, look at you first. Look at yourself. Honestly, like the United States is the biggest prison population in the world. You got black people being shot every day on video in broad daylight, and you want to talk about human rights abuses? It's incredible. It's incredible. Emblemed Fate, thank you again for the tip, says African colonialism is still strong. The French killed Gaddafi for trying to replace the Afro-Franc. I often wonder how beautiful Africa would be if their plans to kill our leaders had failed. Absolutely, absolutely right. This goes back decades since, not just now with Gaddafi in 2011, 2012, but also they killed Patrice Lumumba, right? They've been, as I said, they say that there was new decolonization. Really? Was it really decolonized if they're still, cooing these countries and plundering their resources? Africa is the richest, most resource-rich country, continent on the planet, and they basically created all these countries, divided them up, with a ruler, sat down a bunch of white men around a table with a ruler and just carved up Africa into several countries, the same way they did the Middle East, right? Again, it's divide and conquer, and they've engineered it this way on purpose to make it easier for them to continue oppressing and controlling people and their resources by extension, right? And that's why we talk about neo-colonialism, because we're still, the remnants of that era are still here. It's not a bygone era. It's still in effect. They've just rebranded it. So Brian says, thanks for telling the truth, Richard. Thank you for the tip, Brian. I appreciate it very much. Ed says, Russia. Everything wrong with the U.S. is Russia's fault. What a bunch of bullshit. Absolutely. It is a bunch of bullshit. Suka bliet. Gregory says, low to moderate confidence means one source with no verification. In other words, something coughed up by one detainee under questioning, or someone inside or outside Afghanistan looking for a favor or a residency visa in America. That it was a leak to New York Times and then run with by all U.S. media shows precisely who and what controls America. This is a dangerously deranged and imploding country. Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because it's something I wanted to say before and I forgot, is that this questioning, they tortured someone and that person told them what they wanted to hear. And we've seen this before. This is documented. The CIA was torturing Arabs, and basically, they ended up giving them information they wanted to hear. In regards to Al-Qaeda. And Andy Worthington, he's written several books on Guantanamo Bay. He knows that place probably better than anyone. I had him on the show, and he talked about how one of the reasons you have so many innocent people in Guantanamo Bay is because the prisoners are kept in such horrendous conditions. They think that if they rat on someone who's completely innocent, but just giving the Americans something, that they'll be placed in better conditions. Like that's how hopeless they are, right? And so you actually had one person who would put I don't know how many others in jail, and I mean, it's horrendous, right? And the United States knows they're innocent, but just keeps them there anyway, right? They don't care. They don't care. Thank you, Mandy. I appreciate the tip very much. Gregory, thank you again, says even a suggestion of Syrian withdrawal will be met by shrieks of horror from Dems and rethugs, from Democrats and Republicans, with hacks writing screeds in Washington Post and New York Times about how U.S. simply cannot abandon the poor Kurds, conveniently forgetting that the Syrian Democratic Forces are the PKK, with PKK being on the State Department terror list and therefore illegal to fund and arm them. No one knows that 100 years ago, there were almost no Kurds in Syria. Reference Monsel's ethnographic map of 1912. Well, I mean, there's a statue of Saladin, the great warrior and commander, in the middle of Damascus, and he's ethnically Kurd. I'm just saying, But anyway, my point is that it's the United States does not care about the Kurds. It does not care about anyone. The United States is just using them. That's what it's about. They give them these fake promises of, oh yeah, we'll give you like a country at the expense of Syria and its oil. But, they're again, when the United States pulled out of northern Syria, Like, how generous of you. Thank you for deciding when you leave our country. You know, AOC and other Democrats, all of them were saying, oh my God, he's abandoning our allies, the Kurds. The United States does not care about the Kurds. They were just saying this because they wanted to have something to bash Trump with. And I know this is true, and I can prove it to you because when it came to the oil, when Trump said, I'm leaving troops there, special forces, just for the oil. So he did not pull out of Syria. He's still in Syria. The U.S. is still in Syria, even under Biden. They said nothing. None of them said a word about the oil, right? They just care about having stuff to bash Trump with. But when it's actually something of substance, like, you know, plundering, imperialism, looting, they're not going to say a word. Not a word. I've never seen a single one of them mention that. It's scandalous. Like, he's just openly saying we're there for the oil. Not a fucking word. Not in the media. Not on, in print, in television, radio. None of the Democrats in the House or the Senate. Not a word. Incredible, right? And again, ironically, the United States is still supporting the Kurds because they're the, they've taken the entire provinces of Hasakeh and Deir ez-Zor, which is where you have the crops, the oil, and they made a deal with the Kurds for that. They're still there. So this was all bullshit. It's not even true what they're saying. Fight Back says, keep what you are doing. Keep on doing what you're doing. I will. You know it. And I appreciate your support very much. And, I'm grateful for this platform. I'm grateful every single day. And Fight Back says, keep on telling the truth. We are all with you. Thank you so much because, it's hard fighting this algorithm. So I'm glad seeing people on Rockfin because, even on Patreon, I saw Whitney Webb having her Patreon taken down, which is a scandal. It's like they're trying to squeeze us, and I'm not going to stop just for the sake of appeasing some algorithm. So, Substack and Rockfin, I think this is going to be the future. And really, again, I really highly, highly recommend and implore you guys to make accounts there. It doesn't cost you anything. You can support if you want, but it doesn't cost you anything. And all the segments are there. The live stream is there. It's really worth it. So ROKFIN, rockfin.com/RichardMedhurst. And so thank you again, Fight Back. Bubblegum Douche says, how could you ever confuse Trump and Biden? One is a corrupt pathological liar and the other is, well, a corrupt pathological liar. I know, right? That's the Freudian slip that I had. It really tells you everything. They're just two different flavors of scum, but it's just, they're still swamp creatures. Gregory says, who bombed Syria? The United States, the UK, France. So do not wonder why news in all three countries is entirely untrustworthy, just as their governments are. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I read that tweet earlier about France bombing Syria right on the cusp of Independence Day, because again, this was in April 2018. And France, obviously to a lesser degree, but they're complicit with the imperialism, of course. And the media, unfortunately, the same. I was just reading in Le Monde, which is the leading French newspaper the other day about Syria. And, they're just repeating the same things. They're saying things like that Iran is in Syria because it's pursuing these long-term economic goals. And basically, like, they have a vested interest and it's only economic. Like, what? How do you come to that conclusion, honestly? Syria is fucking destroyed. Half the country is under occupation. Well, not half, but at one point it was under ISIS control, half of it. But the most valuable places are under occupation. Did it not occur to you that maybe Iran does not want terrorists, Daesh, ISIS in their backyard? Like, how do you not factor that in? How do you just completely remove that? Also, it's like, when 50 countries invade Afghanistan and Iraq, and they call it a coalition of the willing, that's fine. But when countries that are targeted for regime change, like Venezuela, like Syria, like Iran, when they band together and they make their own coalitions, They literally call it the axis of evil, and it's all about money. And like, you know, they have to turn it into something nefarious. Like, you know, it really is fucking xenophobic and racist at the core, because it's like basically implying that, you know, these are not these people in the global South are not human beings. They're just, you know, they're evil, and all they do is evil, and they only plot and undertake nefarious actions. Like, what the fuck? Do you think you're the only people on Earth who want to defend their countries? Like, you know, do you think you're the only people on Earth who have allies and neighbors that they want to defend? Like, what kind of logic is that? Anyway, you know, I went off on a bit of a tangent, but you feel me. And yeah, so that was in Le Monde, which I was reading about. So also, sorry, one more thing that I need to add. Also, what do you expect is going to happen when you sanction Iran, when you sanction Syria? They go and make partnerships with each other. You don't even give them a choice. So, and you know what? It's better in the long run, because if that's how they're going to play and they're going to starve our populations, well, screw you then. You know, Venezuela and Iran, they're going to trade. Syria and Iran, they're going to trade. Iran and China are going to trade. There's nothing wrong with that. If you know, French multinationals or the French government or the British government were profiting, they would love it. They would celebrate it, right? Emblem Fate says, sorry, brother. I know you're busy, but you're going to cover Libya more. No one ever talks about it. I know the squad won't even touch it, or the immigration crisis there, or the slave markets, because it makes Biden look bad. I know you're busy. Just ask and keep up the good work. Of course. I totally agree. And I'm glad that you brought it up. You know, it's true, man. I feel bad because I barely covered Libya and even what happened in Armenia, but I'm going to step it up because, you know, what's happening there is, again, this is what they do. They go in, they destroy the country, and then they don't even tell you what's going on there, right? They said, oh, we have to go and impose a no-fly zone. We have to go and, you know, conduct a NATO bombing campaign. And they turn the country upside down because they want to get rid of a dictator and they want to bring democracy. And then it's out of the news, right? Once the reality sets in that now you have slave markets, like you mentioned, now that you have the country torn apart and it's plunged into a decade of war, they don't show you that part, right? Because then it would discredit their entire pretext for regime change, for intervention, which, I mean, in of itself is already disdainful, but nonetheless. So yeah, we need to cover it more. Thank you for reminding me, and I definitely need to step it up. So no worries at all. No worries at all. I'm not too busy for that. That's my job. So we got a couple of things here on YouTube. You guys are very kind. I'm going to keep reading them. Barb for Kids says, thank you for saying what this boomer has always known about this country. Don't stop telling the truth. All right, do you mean the United States or Britain? But I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Samira sent a sticker. That's very, very sweet. I appreciate that very much. And we got one over here from Shadow Band Refugee. It says, Jesus, Pete Richard, your hold on. Your chingadera says you started stream at 2:50 a.m. Go to bed. Thanks for validating how angry people of conscience are in the United States. Hey, man. I mean, look, let's do something right now. I know I've asked you this before. I don't care. But, you know, alhamdulillah. Thank God we have a bigger audience now. So a bigger sample size. What time is best to stream? Because my understanding was that around this time, like when we started now, an hour ago, 2 hours ago, was the best. Like, I'm just out of curiosity, just tell me what time zone you're in and what time would be best to stream, and then I can kind of plot, you know, an average out of that. So that would be good. All right, tell me what time zone you're in and what time would be best to stream. So, Comrade Lo-Fi says, much love to you and everyone. Was able to make it for the stream. I had to work and wasn't able to make it. Well, I'm glad you could, and I'm grateful for your support. And again, now that I've asked you for this poll, hopefully we can work out a good time to stream that benefits, that suits everyone. Matt Bell, thank you for the super chat, says the real issue at the core of Americans' opinions is that so few dive below the surface of what textbooks and mainstream media express. Generally, people take what the government says at face value. You do great work, don't stop. Thank you I appreciate it, and I agree with you. And I mean, it's you know, it's unfortunate that as you said, a lot of this stuff you kind of have to go digging on your own to find it, because usually it's not covered in textbooks, or the mainstream media make sure to propagandize you until you believe that, you know, up is down and right is left, and it's unfortunate. And you know, the thing is that when you look at corporate media, again, this applies to the UK as well. Just by virtue of them being corporate, that's an issue. Like these people are concerned with money, not the truth. You know, it's just like with medicine, with big pharma. I mean, there's a profit incentive involved, so it's going to lead to decisions based off of profit and not off of, you know, saving people's lives and actually benefiting them. This is an issue. This is a big problem. And on top of that, it's designed to make people acquiesce, to make them dumb and ignorant. Because, you know, if you actually told people like, yo, this is what's happening in the countries that we are intervening in, this is what the mainstream media is doing, they're lying and cooperating with the national security state, yeah, people will be outraged because it's wrong. Because, you know, it's universally accepted that, you know, the government should not be killing people and starting wars to make money. I think most people would agree with that. Most people don't want war, but they can't do that, of course, in plain sight. So they brainwash you. They have to make you believe that, you know, China's out to get you and Russia's out to get you. And, oh yeah, those civilians that we just drone striked at a wedding, no, they're terrorists. Like that's the role that the media plays. And that's not truth. That's not reporting. That's, you know, obfuscating, lying, covering up for the government, for the military industrial complex. So, you know, it's very bad. Yeah, it's very bad. And it's unfortunate that they've also managed to take over the internet as well. Right now, they want to censor us. You have all these Democrats that are going batshit now. Although, again, you know, it's a one-party system. But, you know, they want to censor anyone who has a different opinion. Right. I mean, you know this. I'm preaching to the choir. But on top of it, it's not enough that they took over print. They took over radio. They took over television. You know, in the last years, with the explosion of social media and video sites like YouTube, they've, of course, managed to infiltrate it and, you know, infect it like a virus. And so you might be watching a video from one of the channels that you subscribe to, which gives you, you know, actual news, and then, you know, independent media. And then all of a sudden, the next video, it autoplays corporate media. Like the algorithm is designed to favor corporations, right? And of course, they are never subjected to limited monetization or demonetization, and they can lie, get paid for it by advertisers, and also have their videos promoted by the algorithm. It's a disgusting industry, honestly. It really is. So, you know, again, this is why we really can't put all our eggs into one basket. I really, again, encourage you to make an account on Rockfin, on Substack. Just sign up with just a newsletter, like just so there's a backup. We have a contingency plan. Do you understand? Because as we've seen happen to me and other channels, from one day to the next, they can pull the plug, and we can't have that because, I mean, what do we have left afterwards, right? So, again, I'm going to drop all of the links to the newsletter in the chat, and sign up. It doesn't cost you a penny. Same thing on Rockfin. Make an account. Doesn't cost you a penny. So there you go. I got another super chat over here from Ruzbe. Says, do you dance often? Do you cry often? Do you notice people often? Dance? No, not really. Cry? Yeah, you know, reading about these atrocities. Do you notice people often? Yes, I notice all of you. I'm scanning the chat. I'm going to make sure that you all wrote that you're present, right? We need to make sure everyone's all are present and accounted for. Roll call. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, let me see also if there was anything else that I missed. I don't want anyone to think that I missed their super chats or something. So, oh, we got one over here from Gregory. Thank you, Gregory. He says, when Mick Wallace and Claire Daly said, or is it Daly? I'm never sure if I'm saying it correctly, but she's dope. Both Irish MEPs were questioning the OPCW chief in EU Parliament during this week. The committee chair Nathalie Loiseau dismissed what they were saying, crying fake news. She was a government minister in France at the time of the bombing and should be indicted for war crimes for her role in the French government illegally bombing Syria. Yeah, because as most people know, as you just pointed out, the pretext for France bombing Syria was this OPCW thing. And again, what's interesting is that they didn't even wait for the OPCW to inspect the site. Like, how did you just decide that this happened? You know? Well, after Iraq, who is surprised? This is what is so shocking to me, that people believe anything the West says, any allegations about weapons of mass destruction, even after Iraq, after they lied and, you know, destroyed that country. How can anyone trust them? Like, those are the last countries you should ever listen to. Although, you know, I don't recall how propagandized the French were at that time. I was too young, but I remember British and American media 24/7. It was bad. So yeah, just give me a second over here. We got a super chat on Venmo from Neil. Says, Russia drank all my beer and threw up in my trash can. They never do my laundry either. See, man, everything is Russia's fault. I told you. It's crazy, man. Just wait for it. Rachel Maddow will do a segment just like that. She'll blame an asteroid on Russia or something. You know, it'll come, man. It'll come. Don't worry. They have ways. By the way, so many of you have signed up already on Substack. Thank you so much for that. Some of you have even done a paid subscription. Thank you so much for that as well. And I really appreciate that very much. So again, I'm going to integrate the newsletter, which I already had going before, the email list, basically, with the Substack. And again, I'm warning you, from now, I'm going to spam you, right? So whenever we go live, you'll get an email, because I don't know if YouTube is notifying you if you're going to see it or not. You know, we're dependent on an algorithm. With an email, we're not. So there you go. And again, turn on the bell notification. I hate that cliche phrase, but you should do it. So anyway, we got Kiani, am I saying your name correctly? Just signed up to support the show on Patreon. Thank you so much. I owe you a crab dance. You guys show some love.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Hey, why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Yes. So that's why I was hesitant to say. But one of you pointed out Jacques Chirac, who was the French president at the time. He was against the intervention. I remember that. But again, I was talking about the media. I don't remember how propagandized it was, because now if you look at how they cover Syria, it's the same. It's just, you know, c'est traduit en français, mais c'est la même merde. C'est exactement la même chiasse. Donc voilà. Et sinon, à part ça, so hold on. There was a comment over here. Where is it? So, yeah, fetish magic. Interesting name. So some of you want to be parents and send Poppy to bed, but maybe why don't you put yourself to bed? Exactly. I'm a grown ass man. I'm gonna rant all fucking night if I want to, bitch. No, seriously. Stop trying to censor media, man. I appreciate it, standing up for me, fetish magic. Thank you. And someone asked, what is Substack? Substack is a website where I publish articles. You can post videos too, or audio, but I'm just using it to post articles now. So a lot of people are there now. You have Useful Idiots, Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper, and you also have Glenn Greenwald. So, Asa Winstanley. So people are moving there, and, it's for me, it's an opportunity to start writing again. Cause I don't know. I enjoy it, but, I seem to have found a niche with video reporting. So, I want to get back into that. So I'm writing on there, and I published one article about the war machine a few days ago. Again, the URL is richardmedhurst.substack.com. And again, it's free. I mean, you can subscribe if you want, but as I don't really like paywalls. I get it, but I hate them. So I don't want to. I don't know, man. I'm kind of conflicted about that. Some of you guys were saying that I should make the highest tier on Patreon, or for whoever subscribes on Rockfin, like that gives you access to the live stream on replay, right? Because that's like the highest tier. I mean, again, I still haven't even figured out how to do that. Again, I'm not saying that the segments won't be up. The segments will all be up. But, with that one, you'll be able to replay the live stream and watch me fumble between segments. So I guess that's it. I don't know. But I was still trying to figure it out. That's, LW says, I never get notifications for Richard's show. Well, confound it, goddamn scoundrels that are not notifying you. Are you... Do you have the bell icon enabled on YouTube? Because that's one avenue. The newsletter is another one. I promise I'll start using that from now on. So I'll email you whenever we go live, right? And also on Patreon, you should usually get an email. I post there that we're going live. So yeah. Cinema Gorilla says, make YouTube memberships, if anything. So would you guys like that? I think you can make stickers, which would be funny. I'm sure we could have fun with that. But, YouTube, somebody warned me, like, don't do that because, first of all, YouTube takes, I think, 30%, like with the super chats. Again, I'm not complaining. Like, I'm grateful for anything. But they said that, what if, like, YouTube demonetizes or censors you, and then you lose all of those? That's actually a good point. So I don't know, but like if you guys want me to do that, I can set it up. It's not a problem. Okay, Soda says YouTube thing isn't available for my region. Yeah, that's they haven't rolled it out everywhere, so I don't know. Yeah, Neil says get your cash off of YouTube. They take too much. Mima says no, fuck YouTube. OurTube. Neil says, get Streamlabs. They take 1%. There is a Streamlabs link, right? There is a Streamlabs link. Where is it? God dang it. I regularly paste it in the comments. But yeah, it basically lets you donate through PayPal, and then it pops up on the screen, like with a little zombie or something. Anyway. Yeah, so Recorded says, does complaining mean a person is not grateful? I don't know. That's a good philosophical question, but I don't want to sound like I am ungrateful, so I try not to complain about that. I'm just telling you, I'm just repeating to you what you guys have told me, and we're just having a discussion, I guess. So, Golden says, Rich, you're missing Rockfin tips. Excuse me, I have it open and I did not see it. It's frozen. So let me pull that up for you. And hold on. Here we go. You guys are the best. Let me just refresh over here because it's not showing. By the way, do you know that article from the New York Times about the bounties disappeared? Like, it didn't disappear completely. They changed the URL. But my initial reaction was like, what? They took it down? It turns out they changed the URL, which is a bit weird. I don't know why they would do that. But anyway. You see, I did miss one over here. Excuse me. So I'm just going to read this to you. This is from Fight Back. Fight Back says, between CNN's stupidity, looking for the black hole that sucked up the Malaysian airliner, MSDNC, looking for the Russian Easter Bunny who shuts down Texas power grids, faux news, looking for Obama's Quran in the basement of the White House, we can have one cracking reality show. Too bad we are doomed. Yeah, it is unfortunate that, 99% of the things they cover are just, propaganda. Look, it would be nice if they actually covered Yemen, for example, or Palestine or anything of substance instead of just repeating, Rachel Maddow all day. I mean, I can't even listen to her for 2 minutes. It drives me nuts. So I'm sorry I put you through that earlier. I'm sorry I put you through that. Anyway, Bubblegum Douche says, isn't Chris Hedges on Substack too? He might be. I don't know. He might be. I'm kind of new to it. So I'll check because Chris is awesome. So if he is, that's just another reason for you guys to go on Substack. There you go. So anyway, guys, with that said, we also got a donation on the GoFundMe. This one is from, it's loading. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. Kid Mulu, thank you so much for the donation. We also got one from Kim Daniels. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to play a crab dance just for you. Y'all guys, show some love.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Hey, why you text Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Actually, I actually owe you guys a new crab dance. There's a new version that I should have unveiled because I think we're over 400 on Patreon plus Rockfin. I can't express how thankful I am. Seriously, you guys are the best. So I got to unveil that for you. And just to wrap up, let's recap. Fuck the war machine. Fuck the mainstream media. And free Palestine. So also, I would also add, if you want to support the show, liking and commenting and sharing the videos is a great way to support the show because it fights the algorithm. So thank you so much for that. You don't even have to comment anything coherent. Just, well, it would be nice because I'd like to actually hear from you. But, it helps fight the algorithm and the, cave that YouTube puts us in. So thank you for that. And again, strongly recommend you make an account on Rockfin. Look, man, I'm just going to show you like all of the channels that are here. I mean, how could anyone not be enticed? Look at this, man. You go to Free Thinking Media, okay? That's the category. Look at all the channels that you have. I mean, this is amazing, right? Like, just point out in the comments all the ones that you know. Look, we got Unlimited Hangout, Jimmy Dore, Kim Iverson. We got Nico. We got Convo Couch. I see Lee Camp, Abby Martin. Abby Martin is on here. Great. There's Graham. Unauthorized Disclosure, Ron Placone. Oh, there's yours truly. And Action for Assange. I also know that Hardlands Media is on here. There we go. And how many of these do you guys know? Tell me in the comments. Look, Vanessa's there. So, this is great, right? We got so many leftists that are on here, and there's no censorship. I fucking love it. And this is really, really good to have an alternative, another avenue. See, and we're live right now with that beautiful thumb of Red Scare Rachel. So, yeah, the live stream is on here. The videos, they're all on here as well. If you go to my channel, look, you can watch all of it. It's all there, right? The same videos. No censorship, no nothing. And you can actually, I think, tip on the videos themselves, which is cool. Like, YouTube doesn't even have that. But anyway, yeah, just go make an account. It's free. It doesn't cost a cent. And I think it's really worth it. Look, how many subscribers are we at now? 5,198. Let's boost those numbers. Those are rookie numbers. Let's go. Come on, let's go. So definitely go make an account. rokfin.com/RichardMedhurst. Rockfin.com/RichardMedhurst. And again, you don't have to like endorse my channel. You can endorse any other channel. It's $10 a month, and you get everyone's premium. Like, it's like an all-in-one thing. And again, I don't really do premium things yet. I don't know. Other channels do, though, so maybe that's worth it. And I think it's pretty cool. Netflix for politics, basically, right? So yeah, good to have an alternative platform. Really important, because we can't count on YouTube and, you know, Patreon, and no, it's risky. They're mowing down channels, and they just, you know, on a whim decide to demonetize you. I mean, this is ridiculous. And also, you know, I honestly hate having to censor myself every day. Like, oh, can I put that word in the title? Is YouTube going to screw the video up? I don't have to worry about that here. I actually just report the story how I want to report it, how I need to report it, right? Because they make you tone down the language. Like you can't even say Syria. Like, I told you how scandalous this is. That is scandalous, honestly. But you know, even when it comes to police brutality, for example, like, I'm afraid to put the word shot in the title, even though that's what happened. The cop shot Jacob Blake. Like, you know, he paralyzed him. How do you not want me to put that in the title? You know, it's stupid. So anyway, that's a good reason to go and boost a different platform. And again, that's ROKFIN.com, rockfin.com. Yeah. And yeah, other than that, I hope I read all of your super chats. You guys have been awesome. You've been very sweet, and I'm so glad to have you all tuned in. Some of you were saying that you only got notified after the live stream started. I don't know, it gets delayed sometimes. It's weird. I get notified instantly. I wish it would notify you guys instantly. Glenn says, I live in New York. By the way, that's a contradiction of statements. What was a contradiction of statements? What I said? Or hold on, let me scroll up in case I missed something. But I appreciate the tip. Thank you for that. Teresa, you're very kind. I appreciate your kind words. You guys are awesome. Gregory says he knows 50% or more of those on Rockfin. See, that's dope. That's what I'm talking about. I'm glad to see so many people moving there. That's really good. And right, so before I retire for the night, yeah, just make sure you sign up with the newsletter. The link is below. If you want to support the show, you can also do that on Rockfin and Patreon, or also on Venmo, CashApp, and PayPal. And thank you for all your support. I really appreciate it. You know, you're doing a real service by supporting independent media. Not just me, all the other channels that you also donate to. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for giving people a voice and not corporations. So yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And those are QR codes. You can scan them with your phone if you'd like. And again, if you want, you can also sign up on Patreon for as little as you'd like. I think it's what's the minimum? $2 a month or something? Yeah. Let me pull that up. There we go. So you can sign up for as little as $2 a month, and I will play a crab dance for you gladly. Gladly I buy. And of course, there's a GoFundMe in the Rockfin. And by the way, I'm just gonna give you like a little teaser. You guys know that I've been making those shirts with Mona, right? Like the war criminal merch. We got more stuff coming, man, and we're gonna take it to the next level. So I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited. There's new merch coming soon. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. Thank you for supporting the show with that. And I love it when you guys send me pictures. Also, like I see on Twitter, people like get their Rainbow Coalition Death Cult, Uncle Joe's, and they'll tag me in it. And you guys are looking great. I love it. So yeah. All right, guys, that's all from me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your support and your kind words. I will see you next time, and take care. Ma salame. Bye bye.